I have the esteemed privilege of introducing our speaker to us. But let me ask you a question. Have you ever had this deep rooted desire to accomplish something? And even though you've taken a different path, you still end up coming around full circle to doing exactly what your mind had intended to do in the first place? Well, I've done that before, and I know I'm not the only wayward child in here. Sometimes the Lord nudges you in a direction and you tend to go somewhere else. But our speaker this afternoon had actually taken that journey. She's a master educator. For over 20 years, she has been following that path until the Lord told her, this is just not what I had told you to do in the first place. So get back on track, girl. And she actually did and went to school and became a doctor of naturopathic medicine and is now living her dream. She has opened a clinic called Refresh with two S's, Refresh Health and Wellness Ministries down there in St. George's. She lives to inspire us to physical health, and not just physical health, but spiritual health. They go together. Once you adopt that lifestyle, there's no way you can go back. The 8 laws of health are our daily bread, and this is what she has dedicated her life to doing to her people, for her people, an inspirational ministry. And today we have the privilege of getting some insights from her. So I'd like to welcome Sister Dr. Kendra-Lee Pearman.
Boy, I was wondering who was she talking about. Sounded really great, right? Well, welcome all to this. I'm going to stand down here if that's okay with you. And I'd like to sit down with you, but I'll stand. And today I just want us to really spend some time really looking at our health and wellness. What time is it in Earth's history? What time? End time. What does that mean from a health perspective? We should... I love that. I love that. Because the sanctuary is what? Justification, then sanctification, then glorification, right? And so, I want to talk about, just for a moment, what's happening over there in North Carolina and the devastation that has taken place. And I kind of I don't know what's the right word, but I get engrossed in life stories. I'm really interested in people, their lives. And whenever I hear about a tragedy, I kind of dig and I like to hear people's stories. But one of the things that has been coming out resoundingly with those that are trapped up in the mountains and in different places in North Carolina is that they don't have medications. They can't get medications because they're cut off. And so the concern is that people are not getting their diabetic medications and their high blood pressure pills and all of that, right? And so why does that intrigue me? Because there's coming a time when we are not going to be able to go to the pharmacy. And we are not going to be able to rely on going, because if we're buying and selling, something's wrong. We've made a different decision. But the reality of it is, we're not going to be able to rely on anyone to give us anything. And I don't know if you are aware of how close we are to that time. And when I heard the stories of the people that, their family was saying, oh, we're worried they don't have the medications and different things, I said, Lord, I don't want to have to rely on any medication, because when that time of trouble comes, we're not going to be able to get it. And our bodies need to be able to be strong. Those people aren't eating 6 days, some of them, because nobody can reach them. So they've had to fast, not by choice, but they've had to. And so we need to learn how to fast and go without food now. because that time is coming sooner than we can even imagine. I was just at lunch talking with what's his name? Ben Sinke and his wife, thank you. And, we were just talking about the fact that prophecy is being fulfilled right before our eyes. I feel like getting under my bed and hiding because I'm like, Lord, am I ready? Am I ready, Lord, to stand? But prophecy is being fulfilled, and this election that's happening in a month is very telling. No matter which way it goes, things are going to happen very quickly. And so without further ado, I'm hoping that this presentation is something that can help me to be on a pathway to wellness. Because we need to be well. We need to be healthy. We need to know things to do now so that we are prepared. The virgins, the wise were prepared. The foolish were not. And when the loud cry came, the foolish wanted to get ready, and it was too late. Probation had closed. So without further ado, Lord, bless this today in your name. Amen. Okay, so today we're going to just talk about a common story, and then health versus disease. We're going to look at Bermuda's health scenario, biblical and contemporary perspectives on health, God's laws, then 5 nutrient groups, emotions and stress on health, and then common health challenges. Then we're going to do a self-reflection, and then if you have any questions, okay? So this is not so formal that if you have a burning question and you don't want to wait to the end, it's okay. All right? I will, if you put your hand up and you want to say something, I'll be happy to oblige you. Okay, come on, work now. Okay, so just know that this is not a medical or allopathic seminar here. This is natural-based, okay? And so I'm speaking to you based on my knowledge and expertise and the experiences that I have. But however, we have to put this out there as a disclaimer, so no one says that, it's a touchy situation. Okay, this isn't working so great. Okay, a common story. I may just have to go up front. Are you okay if I do that? Just because of this. And you can see me better. Okay. Okay, so here's a common story. I have many clients that I work with, and this is something that I always hear. Now, this doesn't mean that everybody says this, but in some way, shape, or form, it's a part of stories. Some have more than others. But I hear about inflammation. Now, anything that has the itis at the end of it, that means inflammation. Bursitis, arthritis, sinusitis, tendinitis, okay, bronchitis, okay? Anything that has plantar fasciitis, any of that refers to inflammation in the body. And then you hear about high blood pressure or hypertension. And then diabetes. Anybody here heard these words before? Gout, autoimmune disease, acid reflux, hormonal issues, kidney disease, cardiovascular issues, and then gut issues. And then, of course, that big C word. We get afraid when we hear that C word. But then, you don't really hear about cure, do you? You don't hear about cure. You hear, I'm on this medication for life, okay? And then we hear about symptomology and the fact that what we're generally given is to manage our symptoms, yes? Because we don't want to feel pain, do we? We don't want to be uncomfortable. So we would prefer to take something so that the symptoms go away. So we're going to talk about health versus disease. And this is some definitions that I've come across. You can look on, dictionary.com common, just different, will give you different ideas of health. But have you ever been to the doctor and he tells you, or she tells you, you have a clean bill of health? How many of you had that happen? Clean bill of health. And then 6 months later, what happens? Something. And you're saying, I thought I had a clean bill of health. I have one of my clients, he's about 50-something, and he had just gone to his doctor earlier this year, and he got a clean bill of health. And then in June, he sends me a message that he went to the hospital and his blood sugar is through the roof, and now he's got to take drugs. But his question is, how did I get a clean bill of health? And that's what happens oftentimes. Health is generally, the definition is, you're not sick. Yes? Talk back to me. You're not sick. And so, generally speaking, health is generally just defined as you don't have any identified illnesses. But that doesn't mean that you are healthy. So this definition is health is a state of the living organism in which all of its functions, how many functions? All. Functions and processes are carried on in an easy and harmonious manner for the preservation of life and maintenance of functional and structural integrity. Well, that's a lot of words. So what does that mean? That means your blood's pumping well, the oxygen's going to your brain, any type of toxins are getting pushed out. That means that there's no cells that are dying and sitting in your body, okay? That means that your body is functioning perfectly. And anything that causes it to have any issue is immediately dealt with. That's health, okay? Health, if one possesses it, not if is that operative word, if. It is easily maintained by healthful living. I've been teaching for many years, and I would tell my students, everybody starts the class with an A. It's up to you whether you keep that A, right? So if you do your homework and your assignments and you turn them in on time and you come to class and you participate and all of that, then you'll maintain your A. Well, guess what? It's the same thing with our bodies. It's easier to maintain than it is to kind of go back. If it has been impaired, it is to be restored, repaired in the same way and by the same agencies that maintain health. On the flip side, disease is that state of the living organism in which all of its processes and functions are carried out in a less easy way, meaning that the blood's not flowing properly, or the body's trying to take from somewhere because it's not getting what it needs in the food. And so in other words, now there's disharmony that is happening in your bodies, okay? The other definition says, disease does not develop suddenly. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? So if someone gets a cancer diagnosis, didn't just happen last night. It's years and years and years and years of growing in the body. It only shows itself when symptoms start to happen, and then the doctor sends you for blood work, and then, you got cancer. But guess what? You had cancer for 20 years. Just didn't know it. There are months and years of gradual accumulation of the effects of your constant habitual transgressions of the laws of life. Okay? And so here's a continuum. So on the left, I have abundant health. And on the right, we have debilitating illness. Both of them represent 5% of the population. Okay? So the abundant life is that person who has dynamic vitality, has harmonious integration of body, mind, and spirit. Okay? 5%, not many people. Then there's optimal health. This is 15 to 20% of the population. So think about 15 to 20% of us in this room potentially have optimal health. And this is a general sense of wellness, biochemical and bioenergetic balance. That means that your biochemistry is functioning in the way that it should. Everything's working. Then you see the largest group? You see that? 70 to 75% have suboptimal health. These are the walking sick. These are people that have chronic diseases, diabetes or high blood pressure, okay? Or something that's requiring you to take some type of medication. That is where you fit in that 70 to 75, degenerative conditions, meaning that you're constantly breaking down, breaking down, breaking down. And then the debilitating, these are advanced degeneration and disabling illnesses. These are people who can't even literally get out of bed, and they're just basically existing. So my question is, rhetorical, where are you? And where do you want to be? Where do you want to be? Now, I can imagine that we all want to be abundant health. Well, that will happen when we get to heaven, right? But in order to get to heaven, we got to make some changes. When? Now. So I want to talk to you about toxemia. Have you ever heard of toxemia before? Yeah? I mean, pregnant women, that's like the thing you don't want to get, right? You heard about that. Don't get preeclampsia, right? Or toxemia, because then they'll put you in the hospital and they could take your baby. But toxemia is something that, I don't know if you can't really see it because it's not really big, but there's the roots of the toxemia tree is looking at things like enervation and negative emotions and addictions and then stress and then overeating. And then that all leads up into the branches that then become disease. And so there are over 30,000 different names of diseases. You know how they figure it out? Well, if you have this, 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 and this, then it's that. And then if you have this, 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 and this, then it's that, okay? So it's almost like looking at the symptomology that you have, and then they kind of classify it as something. They give it a name, okay? And so there's 30,000 different names for sicknesses. Like I talked about the itises, but the bursitis, and then there's gastrointestinal diseases. Then there's mental disorders, and then there's the big C, cancer. Then there's obesity and respiratory illnesses and skin problems, all of these things that we are plagued with. But toxemia is the poisoning of the blood. Have you heard that before? The poisoning of the blood. And the blood is what? Your life force. And when your blood is poisoned, it drops off. The blood is going where? Everywhere. And so if your blood is poisoned, it's making deposits in different places of your body, okay? And where does that come from? Well, wrong habits of eating and sleeping and working and recreation increases the intake of poisonous acids and alkaloids in the body, which then in turn weaken the eliminative functions, so toxins remain in the body. Here's one that we all have done. How many of you like to sweat under your armpits? Nobody, especially women, right? So what do? We put on our deodorant. And what kind of deodorant we put on? One that's got antiperspirant. And what's in that antiperspirant? Chemicals. You remember getting those big hard bumps under your armpits? You remember that? Because now those toxins are trying to come out, and now they're stuck in there. And so what we do, because we don't want to have sweaty arms, we do something so it doesn't sweat, right? And so the eliminative function of the armpit is to get rid of part of the toxins, and now we're holding those toxins in. Accumulations of uric, oxalic, and sulfuric acids in the blood are deposited into your organs, causing diseases to develop over time. over time. Disease is made manifest to us by symptoms. Okay? And generally the symptoms happen way down the road, not necessarily immediately. And so you keep putting the deodorant on until you get a problem later. And then you're like, well, when did this start? 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And so every disease, or so-called disease, is a complex of symptoms which signify a crisis of toxemia. Okay? All diseases are one. Did you know that? Everything is connected. So if you have tendonitis, and then you have sinusitis, and then you have bursitis, and then you have plantar fasciitis, it's all the same thing. But this doctor's going to treat you for sinusitis, and then they're going to send you to another doctor that's going to treat you for plantar fasciitis. But it's all the same thing. It's inflammation in the body. All disease has one origin and started as an innocent cold. Can you believe that? But due to suppression, to get rid of the symptoms, the body then becomes weakened, or enervated is the name, the word. And then toxic poisons increases until serious diseases results. And then terminal illness is the culmination of years of abuse of nutrition and years of toxemia, which resulted from faulty elimination. So I always tell the story about my mom, bless her heart. And my mom was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in 2013. And the only reason why she got diagnosed was because she started to have symptoms. Now, she was 70-something years old, 74, I think, about 74. And so she had the cracked rib. Well, she hurt her ribs, and then they found out that it was cracked, and then she started to lose the weight, and then, we go for testing and find out she has multiple myeloma. And then we go away, and the spine is, the spine, some of her L4 and 5s, they're disappeared because like a termite, it just eats out the bone. And now she's to the place where she's very sick. However, it did not start when she was 74. More than likely started when she was maybe 34 or maybe 44. So all along, she's eating ice cream and chicken and fish and cakes. She loves cakes. My mama loves sweet stuff. So she's eating all these foods. Guess what it's doing? It's feeding that cancer. Until it got to the point where she started to have symptoms and then went to the doctor, and that's when we found out what it was. But it didn't get it overnight. It was years of abuse to the body, thinking she's eating okay, but in actual fact, she was growing cancer in her body, but it didn't show up. In other words, it wasn't significant enough to show up in the blood until it had been incubating for over 30 years. And that's what happens. It never comes just overnight. It's years and years of accumulation. And so we have these things called lifestyle diseases. Now you remember, you think of you older ladies in the house and men. When you used to hear of someone dying, they died of old age. They just got old and they died. But now everybody dies from something, right? Old age, people don't die from old age anymore. Everyone generally is dying from something. They're dying from cancer, or they're dying from diabetes, or something is causing, they had a stroke, okay? You're not hearing people dying of old age anymore. And so lifestyle diseases, these are the things now that people are getting based on their lifestyle. And these are influenced by your diet and your lifestyle. Say that for me. Diet and lifestyle. Diet and lifestyle. And, you know, people say, well, I have this because it's hereditary. I actually debunk hereditary. I don't actually like that word in this sense because generally speaking, you eat the way you were raised, yes? You eat what you were fed and you feed your children the same way you were fed, right? And then your children grow up and they make the same food that you eat and then they feed their children the same way, right? That's it. Unless someone breaks the cycle. Unless someone breaks the cycle. And so these are associated with how a group of people actually live. And so when you see diabetes running in families, it's because the people in the families are eating the same way, right? When you see obesity in families, it's because people are eating the same way, right? And so they are non-communicable. So you can't pass diabetes to somebody, right? But there's a common thread. There's a lack of physical exercise, unhealthy eating, alcohol, substance use disorders, and smoking tobacco. These are generally the reasons why people develop this. But guess what? They're expensive to treat. The amount of money that this country spends on chronic disease is crazy. Don't even talk about the United States, how much they're spending on that's why health insurance costs so much money, because the quote-unquote healthier people are paying for those that are chronically unhealthy, right? That's just how it goes. They are expected to increase throughout the years, meaning that is more. Every other person that I speak to, my age, is on high blood pressure medication. What? That's crazy, right? More than 90% of human illnesses are caused by errors in diet, by eating foods not meant for human consumption. In other words, eating non-foods, okay? So these include cardiovascular diseases, hypertension, high blood pressure, heart attack, stroke, atherosclerosis. Some cancers, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and COPD. These are lifestyle diseases. And people are getting younger and younger. There are children that have type 2 diabetes, that have heart conditions, young children. So let's look at Bermuda. This is where we are. And so this was a study done in 2011, which is old. It's really an old study, and I haven't been able to find one that's sooner than this, except I do have some data that's more recent. But in 2011, they looked at 801 people. And of course, that's now, how many, 13 years ago. So you know that these statistics are going to be worse today. But 11% had type 2 diabetes, which represented 88 out of that 801. Hypertension, 36%, representing 288. High blood cholesterol, 34%, which 272. Cardiovascular disease, 5%, representing 40 people. But look at this, overweight and obesity, 67%. And overweight and obesity almost guarantees type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure, and then sometimes cardiovascular diseases. So you can see with 67% of the 801 people, that's huge, that are overweight and obese. And if you look at the numbers below, very few are actually eating fresh foods. And now with Sargasso, geez, nobody doesn't even cook no more, right? Just order some food. And so more and more people are eating processed foods that are made by someone else, okay? And so here's one. This is pre-pandemic. So this was right before 2020. And so Bermuda 23 miles, 60,000 plus people, has the third highest incident rate of diabetes in the OECD. That's crazy. This little small place here, with over 13% of residents diagnosed. And the it should be OECD, is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. That includes the UK and other overseas territories, Bermuda, little small dot. And then 50% of residents have at least one chronic illness, such as diabetes, heart, or kidney disease. That is crazy. That's crazy. And 1 in 3 residents have high blood pressure and or high cholesterol. Okay? So these are markers that indicate if this trend continues, then we're going to have more and more people that are going to be chronically ill. And so let's take a look at the biblical and contemporary perspectives. So my text that I use always from the Bible is 3 John 2. Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers. God wants us to prosper in health. It was never his design for us to be sick. It was never his design for us to be overweight and taking drugs like this. That was never his design for his people. I couldn't imagine Adam and Eve coming back and saying, what? Because, I mean, of course, we know what Eve did, but the point of the matter is they knew what God had given them, and they were living to be 900 and something years old. And you look in the back of the newspaper today, people ain't even making 40, right? 40 or 50. I had a friend, a classmate of mine, just turned 60 on July the 11th. And last week, Saturday, she died. Like shocked out of my mind. Just shocked out of my mind. She just turned 60. And then the Bible in 1 Corinthians 6:19-20 says, do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit? The Holy Spirit can only live in a clean temple, a healthy temple. He cannot live in us if we are not eating and living right. He cannot. And that's not my word. That's what the Bible says. For you were bought at a price. Therefore, glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. And then the spirit of prophecy in healthful living, she says that the living organism is God's property. Why? Because of creation and redemption. And by a misuse of any of our powers, we rob God of the honor that is due him. Are we robbing God? The honor that is due him because of our lifestyles, because we are not allowing his Holy Spirit to live in us. When we do all that we can on the part of health, then we may expect the blessings to follow when we ask God in faith to bless our efforts. You know, we pray when someone gets sick, and I pray for anybody that's sick. But people want to be healed, but they don't want to make no changes. People want God to take away the cancer, but they don't want to make no changes. You pray a prayer in faith, but you make the effort to move forward and make the change in your life, and God will honor that. But we got to do our part. We can't expect for him to just heal us, and then we're just going to keep going back. And Ellen White tells us that some people he's not going to heal because they're going to go right back to doing the things that they did that made them sick. You know, that's a serious thing. And so, yes, I believe in praying for people, praying for myself when I'm sick. But sometimes I got to repent. Say, Lord, I know I'm having this problem because I've been disobedient. I'm disobedient. Okay, so I got to repent first and then ask God to do it. And then follow what he tells me to do. He will then answer our prayer if his name can be glorified thereby. He's going to answer the prayer if he's going to be glorified. But let all understand that they have a work to do. God will not work in a miraculous manner to preserve the health of persons who are taking a sure course to make themselves sick. It's not going to do it. It's not going to do it. Satan is the originator of disease. There is a divinely appointed connection between sin and disease. Sin and disease bear to each other the relationship of cause and effect. Disease never comes without a cause. Never comes without a cause. We already looked at the toxemia tree, okay? And some people say, but I eat this way and I do this, but are you getting enough rest? Or are you stressed out? You know what I mean? Are you not drinking your water? It's a complete package of what we need to do. The way is, disease never comes without a cause. The way is first prepared and disease invited. You heard that? Invited by disregarding the laws of health. So you're saying, come on, disease, come on in. Well, you're not really saying that. I saw a video. I should have put it on here. It was, I think I saw it on YouTube, and it was a group of black guys in America, and they were cooking. And so, no, I saw it on Instagram. And so the guy was cooking. Oh, I know. Someone offered him red drink, and he said, oh, yeah, give me some of that diabetes drink. And then another guy was barbecuing, and he said, oh, yeah, let me go get some cancer food. And then someone else was macaroni and cheese or something, and he said, oh, yes, give me that goat. And they were identifying the food with the diseases that it caused. Now, that was like brilliant, right? It was brilliant, but we'll still keep eating it. The majority of diseases which the human family have been and are still suffering under have been created by ignorance of their own organic law. We don't recognize. And then this is the last one I'm going to use from Counsels on Diets and Food. Ellen White says, and this blew my mind when I first saw this, it is just as much sin to violate the laws of our being as to break one of the 10 Commandments. That is deep. That is deep. We're worrying about the Sabbath, but look what we just ate for lunch. I'm not talking about today. Or what we have for dinner, right? For we cannot do either without breaking God's law. So when you're breaking the laws of health, if you're not getting your sleep, and if you're not drinking your water, and if you're not getting your rest, and if you're not eating healthy food and practicing self-control, you are just as much breaking the 10 Commandments. That is deep. That is so deep. But our wrong habits, we are daily lessening our strength to glorify God when he requires all of our strength, all of our mind. By our wrong habits, we are lessening our hold on life and yet professing to be Christ's followers, preparing for the final finishing touch of immortality. We done fooling ourselves. We are fooling ourselves. I am fooling myself. If I think that I'm going to be saved eternally and I'm abusing the temple that God has given me, that's a serious thing. And you know, when he says, depart from me, I never knew you, I don't want to hear that. I know you don't want to hear that. Go back to the virgins, the wise virgins. They were preparing before the loud cry was sounded. They were making preparations in every way. And when the loud cry came, they were prepared. They were prepared. And so here's a book, Proof Positive. This is written by Dr. Neil Natalie, and I think he's Weimar. But he says, and this is an old book, but the information is so valid even today. He says, each day most of us make decisions that ultimately have a bearing on life and health. We may not commit suicide in a single deliberate act, but we may put harmful substances into our bodies that will prematurely cause death or decrease our quality of life. You mean to tell me we're committing suicide? Slow suicide? By our lifestyles? That means we're breaking thou shalt not kill. Scientific research clearly demonstrates that our daily choices affect our likelihood of living a long and healthy life. Our health is primarily dependent on what we put in our bodies and what we do with our bodies. That translates into lifestyle. So there's two types of diseases. You know this. There's infectious diseases, viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, everything that comes, the cold, the flu, and that other word, I won't say it. But all of that is, children get that hand, mouth, foot, hand, mouth. Those are all contagious things. Ringworms. But then you've got these non-infectious diseases. And this is everything else. That most forms of cancer, heart disease, and genetic disorders, okay? And so when we think about disease, go back to that tree. And I want you to keep thinking about that. The continuum, where are you on the continuum? And where do you want to be? What do you want to be? And so God has 8 powerful and fundamental laws of health. Some people call them the 8 doctors. And the first one is air. Do we take air for granted? Yeah. And then the second one is sunlight, and then abstemiousness, and then rest, exercise, water, food that we eat, and trust in God. Now, I have refreshed health and wellness, and so God has blessed me to be able to, that's the name he gave me, was refresh, with 2 S's. And so my R is relationship with God. I believe that you can't do anything without God. You can't eat right without God. You can't sleep right without God. And so my R is relationship with God, because you need him in order to do anything else. The first E is eating healthy. And then F is fresh air. Second R, rest. Second E, exercise. Sunlight, self-control, and H2O for water. And so the relationship with God, first we need to understand God's love for us and the fact that by creation and redemption, we belong to him. And then the next one is we got to know that we are totally dependent on him as our higher power. He is the only way that we are going to be saved eternally. There's no other way that we can be saved but through Jesus Christ. The Word of God tells us that. So we have to be totally dependent on him. Then we have to have love for our fellow man. And then daily exercise of our spiritual self, Bible study, and prayer. We got to spend time getting to know what God's message of love is to us. Then there's the eating healthy. And sometimes that's as far as our health message goes about the diet. We look at people that's got chicken on the plate and we criticize them. Or we look and see what people have in their grocery carts when they go grocery shopping. But we can't be healthy or make healthy choices unless we've asked God to help us to do that. Because the foods that they have now are addictive. Do you know that they put stuff in cheese to make you crave it? So you keep eating it? Yeah. Those things are addictive. They purposely put stuff in it so that we keep wanting it, okay? God as our creator knows what is the best diet for us. He gave us the original diet. And you know, people will slam that away and say, oh, well, that was for them and da-da-da, okay? But if I tell you put coconut oil in your vehicle, are you going to do that? Why not? Because the manufacturer told you put gas in it, right? But if God gave us a diet, why do we fight him so much? Why do we fight him? You know? You have, you know, your laptop and what it says, don't let it overheat and don't put it on the bed and, you know, don't run it for too long. And we make sure we take care because we pay for this, right? But Christ paid for us with his blood on Calvary. And we are so much worth more than this laptop. But we take care of this laptop and our car better than we take care of our bodies. We want to fight God over that food. Don't tell me. He said I could eat it clean, meat. I could eat that clean as long as it's, you know, splits the hoof and cluck. But guess what he also said? You better not eat it with the blood and the fat. And how many of y'all are soaking that stuff in salt saline for days on end before you eat it? Mighty quiet in here. So in other words, you got to eat it kosher. And ain't no kosher meat coming in Bermuda unless you're specifically going and asking for it. So when you buy it from that, this is funny, right? I got myself in trouble. They're never going to invite me again. But I went out to lunch. I won't say what group of people it was. And so anyhow, I went out to breakfast with them. My husband invited me to go, and we went. And so anyhow, some reason they asked me a question. That was probably the worst mistake that they could have made that day. Anyhow, so conversation went. So I said, so you think that meat that you're eating today, you think that's kosher meat? And they said, absolutely. I said, why would you think that? Wow. Didn't really give me an answer. I said, you really think Grotto Bay is going to pay a Jew to cut that animal and slit that throat? And you really think they did that? And that's how much they're charging for this brunch? You really think they did that? And I said, you're delusional. So in other words, when we go out and we eat, trust and believe, that meat, that chicken, that fish is not kosher. And the Bible says if you eat it, that is sin. Remember what happened with Saul? And he wouldn't let his army eat. And then Jonathan came along and ate some honey. And then they all went and slaughtered the meat, the animals, and they ate it without bleeding it properly. That was sin. Now, I'm not in nobody's plate, your kitchen, your fridge. That's not me. That's not my job. I'm only telling you what God's word says. That's why, and you got to study for yourself. Don't take what I say. Go and check it out. Check it out. And nowadays, the animals are so full of antibiotics. And the chicken used to take, you can't even call it chicken no more. Because they're growing those things without feathers. They ain't got no beaks. They're 40 pounds. They can't even stand up on their legs. That's not chicken. That's something that they made in a lab. And we gobble it up. And say, as long as I said he blessed him, but it's sin. The Bible says if it's got blood and fat in it, it is sin. That's not my words. Okay? And so God gave Adam and Eve fruits, nuts, seeds, grains, and legumes. That's what he gave them. You guys agree? But after sin, he said we could eat from the ground. We could eat the vegetables. Okay? Flesh foods were not a part of man's diet until after the flood or during the flood, right? That's why they took 7 in, so that 7 clean, so that they could eat it. But trust and believe, those lambs ain't the lamb that's out there today, right? That's not what we're seeing today, not with the way they're making everything in laboratories. And so when we think of these fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grains, and legumes, these foods give us all the nutrients that our bodies need to be healthy. Minerals, vitamins, enzymes, proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and other essential known and unknown nutrients. I never understood why people would do a diet that tells you not to have fruit. Fruit is cleansers. They cleanse the body. Now, most people say because of the sugar, but it's fructose. And it's got vitamin A in there and C in there. Not just got fructose, it's got other stuff. And our enzymes in our mouths were made to deal with fructose. But I tell you one thing, we were not created to drink from animals, cows, and goats, even though people say goat's milk's better. We don't even have the enzyme to break it down. That's why so many people become lactose intolerant, because humans only have an enzyme for mother's breast milk. And then when the child turns between 2 and 3, the enzyme's no longer there because the child's supposed to be weaned. Do you know we're the only mammals that drink milk after we're weaned? Something's wrong with that. Even the elephants know that. And you know, the killer whales know that. And the rabbits, they know that. But we don't seem to know that. So fruits are cleansers, right? They're full of minerals and vitamins and enzymes, okay? The king of fruit, they call it the apple. But when you sit there and you eat your fruits, you are making, look at this, has a cleansing effect on the blood. Now, toxemia is what? Poison blood. So you need fruit to cleanse your blood. It also helps to clean the digestive tract. Must be eaten fresh. You don't want to eat them combined with vegetables. The worst thing we do as Seventh-day Adventists, we serve watermelon after you have potato salad and all that other stuff. We give you watermelon. Don't do that. Eat it first, because then it rots, okay? Putrefies and becomes rotten inside of you, because watermelon takes 30 minutes to digest, whereas that potato salad and that rice is going to take about an hour. So now you're eating on top, and now it's going to sit there and it's going to putrefy. Vegetables are regenerators. They're builders, okay? Anything that is a root, a stem, or a leaf, you want to eat as much raw as you can. But if you're going to steam, you just want to lightly, you still want to have a crunch in your vegetables. Nothing worse than having vegetables that are overcooked. They really don't serve you any purpose. You want to be able to have, you can bake them, like potatoes, you can bake potatoes. They also have these vitamins and minerals and enzymes in them. Green leafy vegetables and potatoes have the highest biological value. Okay, greens, kale, and you know, I remember as a child, my daddy grew it out. I didn't want to eat that. I used to eat, I feel embarrassed to say it, but chew it, put it in the trash. I must have been 2 hours after everybody's up and going. I'm still there because I can't get up till I eat my greens. I had to figure out a way to eat them but not eat them back then. Now I can't get enough out of them. Then there's nuts and seeds. They're excellent source of proteins. They're unsaturated fatty acids, B-complex vitamins, vitamin E, and minerals. Okay? Then there's grains and legumes. These are excellent sources of B-complex vitamins, minerals. They've got magnesium and calcium and iron and potassium and zinc. They are complex carbs, and they have dietary fiber. I mean, how many of you don't like beans? You don't like beans. What they say, they give you gas, right? You got to soak them. You got to soak them first. But the first question is, what is food? Because we use food nowadays to draw everything. Don't you? You see that, right? Oh, come, we'll serve you food. As if that's supposed to bring you in. Even the crusade we're having, they're going to serve you dinner so you can come. But the reality of the matter is food is not for entertainment. It's not for socialization. Food is supposed to help you to grow and develop. Now, not too many children in this room, So we don't have too much growing to do and developing to do. Yes? So therefore, we should really be eating in order to get energy just for our activities. And we want to be able to eat so that we're able to repair and maintain ourselves. So you want to be able to eat so that you're maintaining health and preventing disease, where a lot of times we eat socially. Am I right? We eat socially. You go somewhere and they got food. And then you eat it. And then you go home and say, why did I eat that? I wasn't hungry. I'm said that, right? I wasn't even hungry. But guess what? I still ate it. Well, I'm in a different place now, so I'm pretty good. But yeah, there were times. But then there's the vitamins. Do you know that vitamins only exist, organic vitamins, in live food? Do you know that? So the bread you eat, not got no vitamins in it. It's been fortified, but synthetically fortified, okay? And so you want to be able to eat from the plant foods that God has given us, because that is what is going to give us the vitamins and the minerals that we need. Most of the vitamins, and people say, well, I take a multivitamin. And I say, okay, then you just have expensive urine. Why do I say that? Because most of the vitamins that we take are synthetic. They're coming from wood or petroleum. Okay? If you're going to take a vitamin, you want to take a liquid vitamin, like a liquid vitamin C, not a tablet, because a tablet is inorganic. You want organic. Your body is organic, meaning that it's alive. When you take inorganic substances, then now you're putting something that becomes toxic to the body as opposed to helping the body. So it's better for you to get your vitamin C and your vitamin A and your E and get it from your food as opposed to taking supplements, okay? Because at least you're getting it raw, natural, and organic. Some people have big bags of vitamins. And I just say, well, that urine probably gives $50 every time you pee. Because it's just going through your body, and it's not serving your body any use, really and truly. Then there's minerals, and these exist in the body and are essential for bodily functions. Yes? Mm-hmm. That's a good question. So I recommend my clients, they get a B complex from Rock-On. And it's just going from me. But it's a liquid, it's a bottle of liquid. And it has B12 in it. Now, you got to be careful with B12. Because there's two types of B12. There's cyanide cobalamin, and there's methylcobalamin. So you want the methyl, because that's coming from food sources, whereas the cyanide is from cyanide, okay? And most of the drugs out there, I shouldn't say drugs, supplements out there have cyanocobalamin in it. Yes, ma'am. Thanks. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And that's a really good point. We just have to eat right. If we eat the rainbow and we eat a variety of foods, you're going to get everything that your body needs. If you want B12, you can get a liquid B12 by itself, but you want to get a liquid B12, the methylcobalamin, that you can put under your tongue and let it sit there, and then it quickly goes into your body. Yes, Jane? Well, I advise to go to Rock On. That's where I send my clients because I know they have a B12, a liquid. They also have a liquid vitamin C, but I'm not an advocate for taking supplements. But if someone's concerned about the B12, then I will send them. What I do is I test people, and when I get a body chemistry results, it'll tell me whether the person needs a vitamin C. And so if that's the case, then I will advise them to get a liquid vitamin C. But it just depends on what the results say. Yeah? Okay, so then there's the enzymes. Enzymes are only found in living things. So, if you bite the apple, your children, they bite an apple and they leave it on the counter. Then it starts going brown. That's the enzymes in the apple. Well, that now goes with the saliva, and now that's how your food breaks down. So there's no enzymes in anything packaged or anything cooked. That's why you got to be careful how much you cook, because you want to make sure that you're getting all the nutrients that you can from your food, okay? So think about that. So then there's the fresh air. Do you know that it's the most important nutrient? If you don't get fresh air, what happens? You die, right? And so you want to make sure that you're getting it early mornings. I try to go out 5 o'clock. I wake up, and I have the fortune of living, the ocean is there, and I just take deep breaths in and then out. I make that my habit every day. But even if you don't live by the ocean, make sure that you're able to get outside. As soon as you wake up, after you spend time with Jesus, go and breathe in the fresh air in the morning. Your body requires it. Your brain requires that oxygen. Your lungs need it. Your kidneys need it. Your pancreas need it. Every organ in your body requires the oxygen. Air is cleansed from the rays of the sun, sterilize it. The rain washes it, and the synergistic action of plant life purifies it. Every cell requires oxygen. Every cell. There's not one living thing on this earth that continues to live without oxygen, without air. No matter the small mollusk needs air, right? Everything that's alive requires air. Fresh air charges your nerves and muscles with electricity and increases your energy. Air purifies the blood with its life-giving oxygen. And then there's rest. How many of you get 8 hours of rest a night? 1, 2 people, 3 children. Yes, rest is important. It's vital for your body to regenerate itself. Okay? Now, you don't always have to go sleep, but sometimes just take a break and get rid of that iPad or that phone in your bed. Don't even talk about TV. If you got the TV in your bedroom, take it out. Because when you're on that phone, your mind is constantly going. Then you wonder why you can't fall asleep. And then the first thing you do, you're waking up reaching for your phone. Right? You got to have a break mentally, physically, from things that distract us. And so rest is important. Now, we have the Sabbath, but you can't have just rest on the Sabbath, because most times Sabbath, sometimes you're going more. Pastor said he was going all day today. Yeah, still going. And so, you want to make sure that you are actually, because when you sleep, it helps with the cortisol and the growth hormone and the melatonin. All of this needs. You want to be able to get that exercise, because that also helps you with your rest. And that's what takes us to exercise. Do you know that exercise helps you lower high blood pressure? Diabetes? Do you know that you could be down and out, but take a walk And all of a sudden, your mood changes because it helps to push through your body what it needs. It promotes an increase in HDL. That's the good cholesterol. It helps to manage diabetes and weight. It improves your mental health and your cardiac function and your quality of life. The plants even exercise. You ever see them swaying? They sway. You look at flowers. They're not just standing there. They're moving. Even the dogs. You look at your dogs, your animals. They like to get a burst of energy because they're getting their exercise. Well, guess what? We do too. If we don't move, we're going to seize up. We will seize up. And the sunlight, this is critical. It's critical for vitamin D. Remember when we went through COVID, they said, only walk or you're going to be outside for a mile. You know, when vitamin D is so critical to build our immune system. But you got to be out there long enough. Not too long, because you don't want to get burnt. But you want to be out there, right? It actually helps with your mental, your emotional state. Just 15, 20 minutes is enough a day. But it draws your blood to the surface. It vitalizes your skin. It stimulates your respiratory and eliminative functions. It relieves the overworking of your lungs, your liver, and your kidneys, okay? But it's better in the morning and the afternoon, late in the afternoon. And then you don't want it to be too much in the sun. That's why when we go swimming and picnics, you got to be careful. You want to be too much out in that sun. Then you get burnt. Then there's self-control, temperance. That undergirds all of them because you need self-control. You don't want to exercise too much. You don't want to make your body a god, but you don't want to exercise too little. You don't want to sleep too much, but you don't want to sleep too little. You don't want to spend all your day with God and your children are hungry because you didn't cook no food for them. So everything has to be in moderation, and that's where the self-control comes in. You know, a lot of times you think of self-control when it comes to alcohol or, smoking or whatever. But, don't let me make a big bowl of popcorn because it's over. So I'm learning to make it. Hubby, you want some? Give him a bowl. My grandkids, give them a bowl. And then I keep a little bit left, right? And then, okay, I'm not too bad. But if I make that big bowl and I sit there, Lord, I'm so wrong. So you got to know those things that cause you to struggle with self-control and then ask God to give you the victory. Because remember, it all starts with God, okay? So health of body, mind, and soul is impossible without temperate living. The last one is water. Water, the elixir of life. All living organisms need it for survival, and it's the second most important nutrient. Do you know, I didn't say this, you get 80% of your nutrients from fresh air? So if you're not getting that fresh air, then you're already depleted in a deficit position because you're not getting the nutrients that you need. But then there's the water. Almost every cell and tissue in the body requires it. Do you know that if you don't get your water, it causes your blood to thicken, which keeps sugar, glucose in the blood. It causes your arteries, your cardiovascular system to tighten up. And so thick blood and constricted arteries causes high blood pressure, stroke, heart attack, okay? Water. So many people say, but I don't like to drink water. What? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Your body requires water. Your brain requires water, okay? Everything requires water. And though you need it for circulation, for your blood to go through, we talked about that toxemia. You need water to help clean that blood up, right? Along with your fruits, okay? Digestion and elimination all require the presence of water. You cannot have a bowel movement if you ain't had no water. Okay? It's critical. The body requires at least 40 to 50% of your body weight. So someone who is 160 pounds, for example, should be drinking 64 ounces of water per day. which is 6.4 ounces every hour over a 10-hour period. Never sit up there and drink 32 ounces of water one time, unless you're trying to do a soul flush. You want to drink that 8 ounces or 6 ounces on every hour, or 3 ounces every half an hour. But you want to start. I start at 7 o'clock. Well, I probably start earlier than that, but generally by 7, and I finish at 6. And I drink 10 hours during the day. If you drink too much, you'll run into the bathroom. It's like a tub. It's like a tank. If too much water comes in, what happens with the tank? It overflows. Well, if you drink too much water, then you'll run into the bathroom. People who drink, I see you, people who drink every half an hour or every hour, the body is using that water. You're not going to have to run to the bathroom. Okay? Yes, in the back? Very toxic. It's very acidic to the body. The best water to drink is the water out there, pure water. I'm sorry. Distilled water. But what you get from pure water, what's it called? Is it called? Down in Devonshire. Right. They distill. That's distilled water. So that's the best water that you should be drinking, and not cold, room temperature. So no, sparkling waters are acidic, very acidic, because now they got bubbles. Now you're introducing bubbles into your body. That now gets into your kidneys. That now has an effect on your liver. Like, it's a disaster, really. Okay, so what's the summary here? Well, I'm not going to go through this, but we need to practice having that relationship with God, eating healthy, getting your fresh air and your rest, your exercise, your sunlight, practicing self-control, and getting in your water. So there's 5 nutrient groups. So the first one is the basic nutrients, and this is all life form requires sunlight, earth, air, and water. You're going to hear these again and again. Okay? The earth is where things grow from. Sometimes take your shoes off and just go stand in the grass, or because the electromagnetic forces from the earth, your body needs that. It helps to ground you. So go outside and just stand in the grass, or on the beach, and let the sand just stand there for a little bit, and let the electromagnetic forces come into your body. And we all need air. We talked about that. And we talked about water. You know, our bodies are 70 to 75% water, just like the earth. God designed us just like the earth, okay? And so we want to make sure we're getting the basic nutrients, nutrient group 1. The second group is based on the same things. We already talked about them. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, right? They are abundantly supplied by the earth. You don't have to do anything to that mango other than bite into it. Wash it off and bite into it, right? And they can all be eaten in their raw state. And they all contain air, water, the earth, and sunlight, because they all contain from nutrient group 1. And then the third group, these are legumes and grains. These are beans and peas and chickpeas and black-eyed peas and black beans and kidney beans and guava beans and fava beans and butter beans and order beans. They can be foundational to health-producing diet. But you don't want to eat too much of them. But you got to prepare them. The best thing to do is soak them. Soak them overnight before you cook them. So you're getting rid of the phytic acids that's in them. That's what causes the gas. And then you've hydrated the bean, so all the nutrients in the bean are now alive. Now they're beneficial to you when you actually eat them, okay? Even though they do have to be cooked. But when you just put them in the pot and then cook them for hours on end. So the best thing to do is soak them overnight, at least overnight. Sometimes I will soak my chickpeas for 2 days and just, have them. And just get into the habit, soak them, cook them, and put them in your freezer till you need them. At least when you want them, they're ready for you. As trying to make a chili and all the beans are all hard. So it's better to, prepare. They're not as hydrated as much, and they contain a high concentration of nutrients, okay? But excellent, excellent, yes. Oh, sorry. No cans, dry beans, yes. So you don't know how they prepared those beans in the can. You really don't. And you don't know how long they've been in the can. They could be in the can for years before you open them up. So it's better to do them if you can. Now, if you're in a rush situation, okay. But if you can, you want to get those beans and soak them yourself and cook them. Then this is group 4, flesh foods and dairy products. Well, you know what flesh foods are. I don't have to tell you what they are. But they provide the most concentrated nutrients of primarily fat and protein. Now, the sister back there talked about the protein. You're getting the protein second hand, because if the animals are eating the protein, and then you're eating it. But the reality of it is the cows ain't getting grass no more. They're being fed genetically modified corn. So they're not even getting the grass. So the beef out there is not even got the good stuff, quote unquote, good stuff in it anymore. And the chickens are the same. They're feeding those chickens antibiotics so they don't get sick. And unfortunately, when they die, they just grind them up, put them in the food. So the chickens are cannibals. They're eating themselves. So it's really, it's an awful industry out there right now, awful industry. You couldn't pay me to eat anything that has a mother or eyes. Just couldn't. I'd have to eat the grass first. I really would. But they put additional stress on our bodies. Our bodies aren't designed to actually digest meat. You realize that. It's not designed to do that. Even our teeth are not designed to even chew it up. You look at omnivores, right? Those that eat vegetables and animals. They're got fangs. Last time I checked, I didn't have no fangs. Our mouth, our teeth structure is more like people that eat fruit and vegetables, herbivores, or frutivores, they call them, than we are like carnivores. And so they take the difficult to digest, they're highly acidic, and they produce mucus in the body. Acidity produces inflammation. Inflammation produces all those itises. That's what happens. They put a considerable strain on your liver and your GI system, the gastrointestinal, just to break that stuff down. Okay? And nowadays, we already said about getting it secondhand, but the growth hormones are putting in it, and the genetically engineered food that these animals are eating, and then the other environmental hazards. The fish now, you can't even get like red salmon unless you got to pay your arm for it. Literally. You're buying peachy color salmon, that's farmed salmon. That's from those farm ponds that they got out there, and they're feeding these fish, whatever. And they get a tumor on them, and they just cut it out and they keep serving it. It's just the food industry. You got to look at some of these documentaries, and what they're doing to the food supply is just awful. It's absolutely awful. So you want to kind of avoid these foods, or if you're eating them, eat them as limited as possible. And then there's the refined and processed. Oh my goodness, this isn't even food. This is not even food. Doritos, that's not food. The fast food meals, even the foods we're buying from restaurants, it's not really food. And our bodies don't know what to do with it. Really don't know what to do with it. It's confused. It's really confused. So anything that comes in a box or a plastic container or a can is generally a non-food item or refined or processed. Plus, they have so much preservatives and additives and artificial flavorings and stabilizers and other nutritive compromising ingredients in that. Yes? So you have to be careful with this is my philosophy. Because I can't grow it all myself, I have to buy organic. and I have to ask God to bless it because I'm doing the best that I can. Remember the statement from Healthful Living? You do your part, and God will do his part. And so if it's organic, says organic, and it's not really organic, I don't know that. But I generally don't buy anything in a package. I try to make my food myself. And generally when I do buy something in a package, I bought some these artichoke something burger from Linda's the other day. And, I looked at the back of the ingredients, and it was artichokes, and it wasn't too bad. But it was awful. It tasted awful. It was just horrible. And I mean, it's one sitting there, it'll probably go in the trash. But I mean, my husband said to me, you need to start making black bean burgers again. Because that was not nice, And plus, it doesn't even fill you because there's no body to it. It's just highly processed junk food, really and truly. So you have to watch the organic label. Don't buy it because it's organic. If it's got 3 or 4 ingredients in it, but if it's got like all of these and you can't pronounce it, why you won't put that in your body? So when you think about these refined and processed, guess what? All that stuff over there, our body doesn't know what to do with that. It really doesn't, because it doesn't fit in a category of fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, or legumes. So anything that's coming out of a can, your body does not know what to do with it. It's an inorganic substance that you're actually consuming. So we have to do better. We have a health message. We should be doing a whole lot better. You got all these other people that are making money off of what God blessed us with, but that we just don't pay attention to. There's so many people that are quote-unquote vegans now and promoting vegans. And they're way ahead of us. And we're the ones that had whole plant-based food a long time ago. But we don't even pay attention to what God has given us. Was it Randy Skeet? He preached a sermon. I can't remember what it was called, but he basically was saying that we had rejected the blessings that God has given us in this health message. Like Esau rejected his birthright. We've basically rejected our birthright because we don't even eat like that, least of all promote it, right? So when you think about these refined foods, pastas and breads, breakfast cereals, microwave meals, food isolates. You know what an isolate is? It's anything that's taken out of its original source and then marketed so that they can sell it. For example, protein powder. It's pea. But what did they go through those peas to get the protein? Highly processed. You might as well just eat the peas. Some people are overly concerned about protein. But the thing is, we don't require as much protein as they say we do. All we need to do is eat the rainbow. Do you know that bananas have protein in them? And spinach has protein in it? And fruit has protein in it? And so if we just eat a variety of foods, we'll get all that we need. The only thing we would need to supplement on would be the B12. So when we look at all of these isolated vitamins, we talked about them, and minerals, synthetic drugs and foods, poorly cooked foods, and snacks and sweets. I had my grandson up there, and he didn't touch none of that food. Nothing. Not even the rice. I said, who are you? Where did you come from? I can't believe the garbage. And my children were raised plant-based, they hated it, but they were never sick. But they feed their children garbage. And when they're with me, I tell this story, the youngest one was 5. I had some black bean burgers. And I said, this is what you lost having for lunch. And he said, Nolly, what's in that? I looked at him. I said, when you go to that restaurant, did you ask them what's in that chicken nugget? Because it's got tail and tongue and intestines. I just went, you asked me what's in the food that I made you with love. Did you ask them what's in those chicken nuggets? Or what's in that cheese you're eating on that pizza? You eat that and you're going to ask me. I'm sitting there slaving and making everything from scratch. And you ask me what's in the food I'm making you. He ain't never asked me that since. He did never ask me that since then. Hey, you got some nerve. Ask me what's in the food I made you. You know? 5 years old. I tell you. But here's the hierarchy of nutrients, and this is in a different way. I'm going to show it in another way soon, too. But if you want to have optimal health, you want to eat from the right side. Grains and legumes, natural raw foods, basic nutrients. You want to eat from the left. But if you want to have chronic disease, continue to have chronic disease, and get to a point where you're debilitated, then go ahead and eat your flesh food, your dairy, and your refined and your processed foods, because that's where it's going. That's just real. That's just the truth. So you have to make a decision for you. What's best for you? Here it is again. The individuals who utilize the nutrient groups 1 through 3 experience higher levels of health. Those that are eating the plants. When you're eating those from 4 and 5, then those ones who are experiencing poor health and illness. The diet and lifestyle factors are based on the 8 laws of health. And when you trust in God, guess what? He's going to produce the best results for most chronic degenerative conditions. You can reverse that stuff. You can. But the question is, do you want to? We have gotten, the Sabbath school lesson brought it out today when it was talking about the man, the pool of Bethesda. And it was a statement in there, and it said, we have gotten so used to being sick. You guys saw that in the lesson? I think it was Wednesday's lesson. We're so used to being sick that we've kind of accepted it as our way of life. That's crazy. We've accepted it. So when you want to look at, applying the dietary principles, you want to be able to move as high. I want to be in optimal health. I'm not trying to have abundant health until I get to heaven. But I want to move and stay in the optimal health so that I can have I want to be able to have biochemical and bioenergetic balance. And that's something that I do. I'm not promoting my business today because it is Sabbath, but I do have business cards if you want to look. But you want to make sure your body chemistry is in a healthy way, because most times we don't know. I'm going to leave this up there for a minute while I talk. This is just a guide to a healthy diet. Basically, having 3 fruits a day for breakfast, having oatmeal and some nuts or seeds. And so I eat 3 fruit every day. Every single morning I have 3 fruits. That's just rain, blow, or shine. Doesn't matter. I have my 3 fruits. And then this morning my husband made oatmeal for the kids, so I ate a little bit of the oatmeal. But I would have a sprouted Ezekiel bread muffin, English muffin, and I'll put avocado on that with my fruit and my seeds and all of that, okay? Or then another morning, I may make my own yogurt. And if I make my own yogurt, then I'll have that with my fruit, because then I'll get my nuts in that, right? But you want to make sure that you're having protein in the morning. You want to have your fruits. You want to have your protein. You want to have your grains in the morning, or your legumes. Protein could be your legumes or your nuts and seeds. And then in the afternoon, you want to make sure that you're having some raw vegetables, a salad of some type. And then if you're having your vegetables, you want to make sure that they're crunchy, not overcooked. And you also want to make sure you're having your protein and your grain in that. Easy is making a burger. Take those black beans with your brown rice and make it into a burger, right? I always tell my clients, do at least 2 beans a week, at least 2 beans. So if you're going to have garbanzo beans and, say, black beans, and then alternate them. So you're not having the same thing every day, because you're tired of eating the same food. Your body gets tired of receiving the same food too. You got to, change it up. And so I'll tell them, okay, so this week I go to the grocery store, I get strawberries and blueberries, and I'll get some kiwi. Then I'll get a mango. So a mango is going to take a little while to ripen. So today I'll have my strawberries, my blueberries, and my kiwi for breakfast. Then tomorrow, hopefully the mango is ripe, so I'll have my mango, my strawberries, and my kiwi. And then the next day, I may have my blueberries, my mango, and strawberries. So I'm mixing my food up, eating the rainbow, so that I'm getting a variety of foods in my diet, because your strawberries may have potassium in them, but your mangoes got the most calcium in it. So if you're eating blueberries every day, you're only getting vitamins A, B, and C, or nutrients A, B, and C every day. But your body needs E, F, G, H, I, J, K, all the way to Z. So if you're eating blueberries all the time, you're depriving your body of the other nutrients that come from the other fruits. So that's why you want to make sure that you are getting variety of foods. So choose 4 fruits a week. And then next week, choose 4 different fruits. And then your vegetables this week, because, we can't afford to buy and just waste stuff, right? So you want to buy it and eat it till it's gone. But you want to interact. You want to be able to change that out so you're not having the same thing every day. Yes, Anita? If you can get it raw, then fresh. And Bermuda, do you really get it fresh? That's a challenge for us on this island. But again, God, I'm doing the best that I can, and I'm asking you to bless it. So frozen fruits, generally what they do is take it, cut it, and put it in the freezer. But the problem is the plastic bag, because now the plastic's now in the fruit. That's the challenge, right? So I'm not a big smoothie drinker every now and then, because I don't like the plastic element. So I try to do as much fresh as I can, as fresh as I possibly can. Good question, though. So let me tell you about the minerals. Your brain requires potassium, phosphorus, and water. Okay? And so, you look at diseases today and you wonder, you hear so much of dementia and Alzheimer's. And, and then they're kind of tied it to like foil. But if your brain isn't getting what it requires, then that's where disease is going to be. If your liver isn't getting what it requires, that's where disease is going to be. Your liver requires oxygen, calcium, and water. How many of you, when you were pregnant, they told you take calcium? They didn't. But a woman requires 7 times more calcium than a man when she's pregnant. So if you are already depleted with calcium and you have a child, now you're depleted more. And you have another child, now you're depleted more. You have another child, now you're depleted more. And nobody's telling you to take calcium. But your liver requires calcium in order to function. The liver is the most important organ. People say the heart, the brain. But the liver takes everything that you eat and whatever comes in, and it has to filter it, and then it sends it to the blood. So your liver, anyone gets cancer of the liver, that's it. That's it, they're dead. Because the liver is so important, and we don't give it what it needs. It needs calcium. They always tell us take magnesium and take iron, and that's what they focus on mostly. But your body requires calcium, because the liver needs calcium to change that magnesium and the iron into whatever it needs to get to where it needs to go. So if you're not getting your calcium, then your liver is not functioning. I find that most clients that come to me, their liver is either congested, meaning that they're taking so much medication that the liver's not functioning well, or it's depleted. That's your liver. So you got a clean bill of health, but your liver. The other thing I want to say before I go to emotions, my time's almost up. Okay. I just want to say that, when we're 20 years old, we have a X factor. So someone who's 20, anybody 20 in here? Someone that's 20. Some of you all had children that just went to school, 18, 20, right? Jacob is about 18. So, if he gets sick, he bounces back real quick. But when he turns 40, it takes him 2 times longer. When you get to 60, it takes you 3 times longer. When you get to 80, it takes you 4 times longer. And that's getting back to that health that we talked about in the beginning. How if you have health, you want to keep health. And the reason why we end up getting sick is because our bodies are pulling from places what it needs because we're not eating well or we're not giving our bodies what it needs. This last piece I'm going to talk about is just the emotions. And so your emotions have an impact on your body. They either enhance your immune system or they suppress it. Okay? And this is huge because your emotions can cause your blood pressure to go up. Do you know that? Do you know that some people have white coat syndrome? When they go to the doctor, they're nervous. And then the doctor says, your pressure's up. And then they want to give you something to make it come down. But you're just not comfortable going to the doctor or going to the dentist, for example. Right? It was a one-time thing. So your emotions can actually enhance or suppress it. So worry, fear, hate, anxiety, envy, jealousy, depression, bitterness, grief, anger, unhappiness, deprivation of love, loneliness. These all can lead to disease. Okay? There is one true story. One of the people that the man that came up with the biochemical system that I use was treating this woman. And she was doing everything. She was doing everything. She was eating right. She was doing the 8 laws. She was perfect. But she wasn't getting better. And so after frustration, the doctor said, so tell me, who do you hate? And she said, I hate my husband. Do you know once she admitted that, she was wow? Because the emotions have such a tag on your life that they can actually cause you to be sick. Your emotions. Worry, fear. Hate, anxiety, envy, jealousy. All of these have a serious impact on your health and wellness. And so you want to be able to overcome these. Acknowledge what's going on in your life, and then ask God to take that stuff away. Right? You want to have courage and hope when you're fearful. And the Bible tells us, do not be afraid. Fear not. Right? And so if you're worrying, you want to be able to exercise and talk to somebody. And then if you hate, you want to love the one you hate. And only God can do that. And then anxiety. That causes people to have so much stress. What it does to the body, envy and jealousy. Don't be jealous of what anybody's got, because you don't know what they did to get it. And so then there's stress factors. You got death of a loved one is number 1. Then divorce, number 2. Moving, number 3. Having a major illness or injury and job loss. And so what you want to do is to be able to look at that situation and ask God to help you to deal with that stress. The adrenals, they sit on top of your kidneys, and they suffer from stress. But you can take an adaptogen that actually helps your body. If you're too stressed, it'll bring it up. If you're not stressed enough, if you're too stressed, it'll bring it down. If you're not stressed enough, it'll help you. It's an adaptogen. It helps your body to adapt well to stress. Okay? It's an excellent, oh my gracious, I can't call its name. It'll come to me. Yes, ashwagandha. Thank you. And then you want to overcome these stress factors. You want to be able to, identify what's going on in your life and lay it before God. You got to lay it before Him. Avoid stressful situations. If you know that person brings you stress, then make that decision to go the other way. You don't need to add, yes. So you need, so for example, if you're getting ready to go to school, to college, you need a certain amount of stress to get you to apply, to get you on the plane, to get you to go. That's good stress, right? If you're going to take an exam, there's some stress that comes, but you want to do well, so you need that little bit of, it's like it gives you that accelerant. Stress gives you, good stress it makes you run that marathon, right? And it makes you apply for that job, right? Those are things that, so the adaptogens, it just helps to keep you balanced. Your adrenals balanced, okay? That make sense? Okay. So if you're stressed, you want to practice the 8 laws of health. Get outside and walk. Enjoy the sunlight. Talk with friends. Have a good laugh. Sister Alcina, we were laughing today. And she said, having a good laugh, right? And so here's some common health challenges. High blood pressure. There are things that you can do to be able to combat high blood pressure. And one thing is, and it comes from general toxemia, but dehydration is a huge one. Many times people don't realize that they're dehydrated. They don't even know that they're dehydrated. But the first question you should ask when you go to, and they say your pressure's up, think about how much water have you been drinking. That could be the reason why you're dehydrated, because your blood is thick and your arteries are constricting. You wanna be able to drink your water daily, add more fiber. Juice fasting is an effective way to treat it. Okay, fruits, citrus, grapes, cranberries, blackcurrant, watermelon, these all help. And then the vegetables, the grains, and the herbs. Cayenne pepper helps with, you know that? Cayenne pepper helps with circulation. That's like one of the best things that you could do. I take it in an herbal liquid because, it's liquid straight to the blood. So that's how I prefer to take it, because you don't know how much to really take. You're burning your mouth with cayenne pepper, right? You want to be able to, cayenne is excellent, and parsley and garlic. Garlic can help to lower your blood pressure. Make a garlic, juice it, put it in some water, and drink it if your pressure's high. Or make a parsley tea. I'm a juicer, so I'll juice the parsley and put it with my juices. But, you can boil the parsley and drink the water, okay, because the nutrients are now in the water. Then being overweight and obese. These are things that, really hinder us in our health. It's excess body fat. So anybody that is 20% heavier, so someone who is 5'5" should weigh between 114 and 144 pounds. I will never get there. So I'm in the overweight category. But then if you look at 180 to 234, now that's obese. And so I've been obese, right? And so just because you don't look, it may not, but you may just be, okay? And so you want to make sure that you are working on that, eating a balanced, and your emotions affect your weight too, okay? The stress affects the weight. Then there's diabetes. This is a big one. Sometimes, for some reason, we accept diabetes as though it's normal, and it's not normal. It's not normal for us to be having all this glucose in our blood. We need to think about that. And plus, when the time of trouble comes, you don't want to be, you got to be able to run. You don't know what's going to happen. You want to be able to run and not have to worry about, oh my God, I'm going to get my diabetes stuff. You want to be able to go when they say go, you got to go. And not have to worry about that. We laugh about it, but it's serious. And so there are ways that we can get over this diabetes. A lot of times it's caused simply from dehydration. And then there are natural things that you can take for diabetes, or blood sugar, to keep it at a level that you don't need to be taking drugs. But we kind of sort of have gone just like everybody else, and we just go ahead and take the pills. They're synthetic. And if they're now poisoning you in another way. So when you think about that purple pill, where's the purple going? Where's it going? Because you're not passing it. So it's parking somewhere. I tell the story of one of my aunts, and she's got pulmonary fibrosis on her lungs. But she's been taking drugs for years. And so now it's just impacting her lungs. So it's causing hardness, fibroids on her lungs. So she can hardly breathe. You know? But the thing is, she's not thinking, just taking the pills. And it has to go somewhere because it's an inorganic substance. So your body's not going to process it and pass it out. It's not going to do that. So where's it going? Where's the plastics? Where's it going? It's somewhere in your body. I was looking at something real quick the other day, and it was saying the plastics from bottles and bags and all the things that's plastic, they're finding it in the testes of men. They're finding it in your liver, in the fat in your body. They're finding plastics all through people's bodies. From the plastic that we drink in water bottles and the plastic that's now, it's getting into the water. We can't see it, but we're drinking it. And it's deposits in our bodies. And so you can cure diabetes naturally if you want to. And then there's leaky gut. Have you heard of that one before? And a lot of times we have allergies or autoimmune issues. It's because there's a gut issue that's going on. And the gut has to be cleansed and it has to be cured. And a leaky gut is generally inflammation that's in between the villi in our colons, in our guts. And as a result of that, we keep having problems. And they give us this to take and they give us that to take, and then we've got something else going on or whatever. But you want to be able to heal that leaky gut, and you can. And then there's fibromyalgia. They don't even know what this is. They just called it fibromyalgia because they couldn't fit it in any other category. And so this is a syndrome, a group of symptoms that they've kind of put together because they just don't know what it is. Okay? And so for today, I'm at the end of the presentation. Whoops. I want you to be able to think about, okay, here we go. Where are you? Are you in abundant health, optimal health, suboptimal health, or debilitating illness? That's a self-reflection question. Where do you want to be? So what are your errors? Is it your diet? Is it your water intake? Is it your rest? Is it your relationship with God? Is it self-control? Or is it all of them? Identify those things, those harmful emotions that you're holding on to. And identify what is stressing you out. And surrender that stuff to God. And ask Him to help you because He will. He's faithful. Start or maintain a spiritual relationship. Eat the rainbow. Eat colors, purple plums and red mangoes and yellow pineapple, and just eat the rainbow. Get your fresh air, breathe deeply. Get your rest, your sleep. Move your body to daily exercise. Get out in the sunlight. Practice self-control in all things. And drink your water. It was a study came out the other day. Someone shared it with me. And they were saying that Alzheimer's and dementia, it actually said, it's coming from lack of water. That's huge. God done told us that before. Now science is just catching up. But water. And so what changes do you need to make in your life? Do you have health or do you have disease? What is your plan moving forward? What emotional factors do you have in your life? And what stress factors are in your life? And how are you going to overcome these? Which laws do you practice? Which laws do you need to incorporate? And what are the first 3 steps that you're going to take? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to make these changes in your life? Is anyone willing to be bold and share? They want to answer anything here? Is anyone willing to take the plunge and decide, thank you, sister, that today I'm going to empty out my cupboards and I'm going to make that decision. I made a decision to stop eating eggs let me rephrase that. I've never been a real egg eater, but every now and then I'll eat a cookie or a cake that has eggs in it. Well, I've made the decision I'm not eating anything that's got eggs. I'm not going to tell you why. Juliet knows why, and Rochelle knows why, I think. What eggs are. I'm not going to tell you. If you want to ask me afterwards, I'll tell you, but I'm not going to put it out there like that. But I've made the decision I'm not going to eat anything that's got eggs in it anymore. And I decided I'm not going to eat mushrooms anymore. Because mushrooms are not plants, they're fungi. Right? And so as I done some study on it, I was like, okay, it doesn't have any chlorophyll in it, so it's not green. So really, and mushrooms grow where trash grows. And plus, they eat dead stuff, right? Don't they? Where do you find mushrooms? Decaying matter. So that's my decision. I'm not telling anybody not to. That's just where I'm at now. I'm not eating mushrooms, and I won't eat anything with eggs. So that's the commitment that I've made. So when I go somewhere, I say, is this vegan? Or does it have eggs in it? Okay, thank you. You know, and I love mushrooms. I could make some mushrooms that look like fried chicken. The oyster mushrooms. Oh, my goodness. But I'm just not doing it anymore. That's my choice, right? So anyone willing? One sister says she's willing to make a change. Any questions? You got a minute for a question? Okay. Go ahead, Eudora. Well, you should be drinking at least 40% of your body weight in ounces. So a person that's 160 pounds should be drinking 64 ounces a day. So but it's not over 8 glasses, it's over 10 hours. So it's 6.4 ounces every hour for 10 hours. So the 8 glasses a day, and this is based on research that's been done by a Seventh-day Adventist physiologist who came up with this plan that I use in my practice and what the body requires. Yeah. One more.
Years ago, there was a gentleman that came in. His name was Dr. Espinay. Mm-hmm. And he mentioned the fact that we should be drinking 15 glasses of water
so
daily.
That would be too much. So, okay, let me back up. For someone who weighs 140 pounds, 64 ounces is too much. But it is. But what I'm saying is based on your weight. Yes. Right. So but she said 15 glasses a day. Right. Okay. So if you weigh 140 pounds and your husband weighs 180 pounds, your water intake is different because your weight is different, right? But whatever that is, you should be dividing it over a 10-hour period. So you don't want to drink too late because then you're up all night using the bathroom. You don't want to drink too much. When you drink too much water, now you're washing away all the nutrients that you've now eaten. So that's why some people get loopy. If you drink a lot of water and then they're like disoriented or they can't think, it's because they've drank too much water. They've washed all the nutrients out of their bodies. Now, if you don't drink enough water, now you cause your electrical system in the body to be too intense. That can cause you to have a stroke or a heart attack because it's your electrical or the conductivity in your body is too strong. So that can cause you to have a stroke. There are people that have had a stroke or heart attack simply, and their arteries are squeaky clean in the sense that there's no atherosclerosis, but they're dehydrated on a regular basis. I had a cousin just the other day. I saw his wife, and she said, "Oh, did you hear he was in the hospital, in ICU?" I said, "No, what happened?" And then she said, I said, "Well, it sounds like he's dehydrated." And she said, "You're absolutely right." She just said a few things and said, he's dehydrated. And she said, "You're absolutely right. He almost died. Dehydrated." Question?
Well, I just have a couple of comments. I first became a vegan when I was 18 years old. That was back in 1972.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't all this information like there is now. So I didn't know about B12. So I got very sick. I had to go abroad and get treated. This year, I made the decision to go vegan again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on a gluten, dairy, and soy-free diet. And I just find it very difficult to live in this country and eat healthy because everywhere you go, it's unhealthy food. Like most of the functions, it's just trash. It should all be in the garbage. And the other question I have is, do you think that cinnamon helps with lowering glucose levels?
Cinnamon's questionable, simply due to the fact that, some people call it an irritant. So you have some that will say it's an irritant to the stomach as a spice. But you can take, there's two other ones that you can take, herbs, that can actually help you to lower sugar, glucose. I can't call the name. I know it, but it's not on my tongue. It's bitter melon. I can't call the scientific name of it now. Bitter melon, and there's another one, gypsum. It's two. So I have a sugar aid at my practice that I give people who have sugar issues. And it has both of those herbs in it, and it's used to help you to manage your sugar glucose. But again, water is always your best friend. Always your best friend. And then also watching what you're eating. How much carbs are you eating? Because see, the thing is, vegan doesn't mean healthy, right? Vegan doesn't mean healthy because Oreos are vegan, Cheetos are vegan, right? And chips are vegan. Well, yeah. And I mean, a lot of the foods that are vegan doesn't mean that they're healthy. That's why I prefer to say whole food, plant-based. Right. So, but I consider myself, I don't consider myself a vegan. I consider myself whole food, plant-based. No, that's fine. I'm just saying to you, I purposely don't use the vegan terminology because it doesn't equal healthy. Yeah. Because they have vegan hams and vegan, they got all kind of vegan stuff they're making now. I mean, yeah. Go ahead, sister.
Do you accept insurance? Can you file insurance?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Do you file insurance or does
No.
it self-pay?
I do not.
And isn't it a shame that they're paying for health insurance, but they won't pay you?
Well, I mean, it has they want to make money, right? And eating fruits and vegetables doesn't make money. It doesn't make money. I mean, that's the truth, right? Any other questions?
I didn't have a question. I just wanted my sister to know that living in Bermuda and being vegan is possible.
Oh, yes, thank you for that. I'm glad you said that.
My family has died for 13 and a half years here. Grocery shopping was expensive, but you have to plan ahead
Yes.
and make all your meals from scratch.
I was, and it's, Mm. So what I would suggest, I don't know if you can grow. I'm trying my best to grow as much as I can, especially my greens and carrots and beets and stuff like, because I juice for people. As a matter of fact, after Sabbath, I got to go and juice for people tonight for tomorrow. And so I'm buying, oh my gracious, the amount of money I'm spending on ingredients to juice for people is crazy. They pay me to do it, but, and making sure it's organic or as organic as it can be. So I get you, but you, again, it's, Adine said it is being planful and just, you know, just choosing what you're going to eat this week. Rather than buying a whole lot this week, choose what you're going to eat, what vegetables you're going to have, alternate them, what beans you're going to have, and then next week you do something different. And in that way, you're getting the rainbow. It may not be all in 1 week, but over a month, if you choose, this week I'm going to have black beans and kidney beans, and I'm going to make a chili with it, or burger, whatever. And then the following week, I'm going to have garbanzo beans and lentils. So I'm going to make a stew, and I'm going to make some chickpeas, some hummus, or I'm going to make falafels. And then your vegetables, you're alternating. And so each week, you're eating different colors, and so by the end of the month, you've ate the rainbow, but you've not bought all this stuff, and then if it's just you, you're wasting it, if that makes any sense. So just be planful. I tell my husband all the time, okay, what are we eating this week? Because sometimes you buy the fruit and vegetables, and then they go bad, and I get upset when I'm throwing, especially how much it's costing now. So let's plan what we're going to have this week, and let's just buy what we need for the week. Instead of buying, I used to shop for the month. I'm buying all this, and then I'm throwing the lettuce away, and I'm throwing, you know. But be planful, and then and ask God to bless you. Lord, help me with this. And He will, because He's so faithful, and He wants you to be healthy. Yeah.
Yes, good evening.
Hi.
Hi. My husband has imported 2 powders, and I want to know if you know anything about these powders and the benefits. One is soursop, and the other one is mangosteen.
Mangosteen. Okay. So
I know I can Google, but I would like to hear from.
Soursop is, well, it's touted as something that is very good for anti-cancer. But soursop, I mean, we have the tea at the house, and, you know, I don't drink it all the time, but it is one ingredient. When I was helping cancer patients and making, how do I say this? Making tea for them to help them with their condition, that was one of the ingredients in there. It's one of the ingredients that was in it to help people with cancer, if you want to do a natural approach. But I'm saying, because it's a green plant, it's great as an anti-disease, but it's a part of a plan. So you can't just take this and think it's going to cure everything. You also got to eat right and exercise, and, you know, it's just a part of a preventative plan. And mangosteen too, they're superfoods, right? Mangosteen and soursop, they're superfoods, but there's so many superfoods out there. What you want to do is practice preventative. And if you are sick, you want to get from being chronic to being well and then be preventative. So that can be a part of your regimen, taking the soursop and the mangosteen as a part of a regimen of eating healthy and exercising and all of that. Does that help? Okay, awesome. Yes.
Hi, this is actually, it's not really a question. This is actually for the lady that had concerns over the price of vegetables. It's a group led by Chaplain Santucci that do gardening, and they're just about to start up a new class. It's very good. It's very informative, and I'm actually a part of a group chat where they have a lot of tips on growing your own vegetables. And throughout the year, it's a lady that actually sends out information about what's the best time to grow, and that might be able to help you if your costs on vegetables.
Yeah, and grow as much as you can, because when you grow, at least you know what it is. That's awesome. Awesome. Right. Sure. Yeah. Well, even if they cater, it doesn't mean it's healthy. So let me tell you this. I like Indian, and if I go to the Indian place, I always ask them to make it vegan. But when I test my souls for the next 3 days, it's through the roof, even though I'm drinking my water. So it's messed up my body chemistry so badly that it takes me 2 to 3 days to get my souls under control. In other words, the thickness in my blood and the constriction of my arteries, just from eating one meal from out of a restaurant. So even though they have it, it's full of soul. It's so much that you don't know. Now that doesn't mean you can't go out to eat. It just means you have to choose and advocate for yourself. Give me a baked potato and some vegetables and don't cook them too much. You know, we have to learn how to advocate for ourselves.
Well, hasn't this been wonderful? And would you like to hear Sister Kendra another time? Okay, give her a round of applause. I benefit from Kendra's program. I'm getting there. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there, making strides. So I recommend it to anyone, but you have to, anything good is going to, yeah. But you have to think about, do you want to make yourself better? You know, do you want to strive to be better? Do you want to strive toward balance and living the way God will want us to live? So I'd like to say thank you, Kendra. And I thanked you this morning, but thanks again for coming.